Hello, sir. Good morning. We're so happy to be here with you, and let's start our interview. So, the first question is: what region of France were you in during the occupation?
I was in Vichy, France, specifically in Marseille, where my family is from originally. But before the war, we lived in Paris.
Thank you. Now, the second question: did you have to leave your country? If so, when?
We didn't have to leave our country. We actually lived there until the end of the war, but eventually I went on to Mexico.
Now, let me ask you something. How was food ration?
The food was rationed with stamps and with little cards in which you had to stamp the food you got for a week. For example, you only had a certain quantity of eggs, of milk, or of meat, and if you took the week supply, you couldn't have any more.
What were the rules at home? Could you go out on your own?
Well, I couldn't go out on my own, but then again, we didn't go out much at all. We only went out to get the food, and
What was the impact on the cities due to war?
Paris was actually almost destroyed before we surrendered. The cities were very demoralized, the people were very demoralized. There was bombing on cathedrals, on many towns in the south, especially where the resistance was, but on the whole, there wasn't much physical damage done to the cities.
So, how was the quality of life in general during these times?
It was pretty terrible, I have to say. It was terrifying, actually. And since I was a little boy, I couldn't really understand what was happening, but I knew we had to keep safe.
How was it afterwards, the occupation and the liberation?
It was very hard because the country had to rebuild not only the cities but the morale.
Can you recall any discussions with friends of yours?
I honestly can't remember too much, but in fact, I can't remember too much of France at all because I was very little when this happened. I had about 4 or 5 years. In fact, I remember more of Mexico than I do of France.
In the aftermath of the occupation, how did your family adapt?
Well, as I told you, we eventually moved on to Mexico, where I actually studied my primary school, and my secondary school, and I stayed there, even though my parents went back to France.
Thank you very much.